Welcome. What green belt certification is right for you? In this video, we will answer your biggest questions about green belt certification programs. In today's spotlight is sixsigma.us. Brion Hurley is with us to tell us more about this program. Welcome, Brion.
Thank you, Amanda. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself before we jump into the sixsigma.us program?
You bet. So my background in process improvement started in school. I took statistics as undergrad, and then I went to quality management as a master's program. And then I started working at an aerospace company. Spent 18 years doing training classes on statistics and Six Sigma, and I started learning about lean, and I got really hooked on it. And so then the last 7 years, I think I've been doing my own consulting. I left aerospace, and now I get to work with a lot of different clients in different industries and really focusing on how do we bring some of these skills into a sustainability lens around social and environmental issues.
Nice. And so with the sixsigma.us program, do you want to tell us a little bit more about that program?
Sure. Yeah. So I have my own consulting business. It's business performance improvement. And I work with, clients and people I've met through various work in previous industries and people I network with. And I might help with some custom training or coaching and mentoring. But I also teach classes for Six Sigma US, and I've been doing that since I left my corporate job. And they provide a lot of standard green belt, black belt, lean courses for a lot of large companies or individuals looking to get certified or learn more about process improvement. So I've been working with them about as long as I've been my own consultant. And so I do online classes, virtual classes, a lot of those lately. I started off doing a lot of in-person classes, and I still do those at times. And then they also have some options for self-paced learning. So you go in and you take the modules, watch recordings and videos at your own pace, and go through and kind of learn it whenever you have the time to do that. So that's very convenient. So I'm sure you've covered kind of different options in terms of formats for training in the past, but happy to talk more about that if you want.
So when you say that there's in-person classes on occasion, is there a region or an area that that's focused in? I mean, I know you're leading classes, but.
Yeah, so they're primarily a US-based company. There is some international locations they have, but they tend to pick strategically located large cities throughout the US. So Seattle, San Francisco, San Diego, I've taught classes there, even classes in Houston and Dallas and Boston and Chicago and Minneapolis, and even where I'm at now in Miami. So they're strategically placed and set up classes in large cities to hit as many people as possible and offer those up usually once a quarter or so. And then some clients may want on in-person private classes for their company. And so then that could be wherever in the country we go. And they have a host of different consultants like myself that they pull on based on the industry that the client is asking about, that maybe they have a special expertise in that industry. It doesn't have to be. It could just be that they're closest to that location, so the travel cost can be less and provides a little more flexibility and less travel time and cost.
Are there any prerequisites? Because I know, well, maybe we should qualify first that what type of training? Is it white belt, yellow belt, green belt, black belt?
Yep, and master black.
And master black belt. Okay, beautiful.
Yep.
And
so,
is there a prerequisite for the green belt?
No prerequisite. They do have white belt and yellow belt that is part of the green belt training. So the format they've used is a one-day white belt, and then if people like that, they can add this next session with is 2 days of yellow belt. And then after that, there's about 2 more days of, we'll call it green belt light. They call it jumpstart. And that goes over capability studies, Gauge R&R, and SPC, plus Minitab. You start to practice with Minitab. Then they offer a second week of green belt that completes the full green belt program, which is hypothesis testing, DOE, control plans, mistake proofing, things like that. So the second week is kind of like the going deeper into the statistics, really about analyzing data and doing hypothesis tests before and after your improvements have been put in place.
And so that sounds like a pretty comprehensive program than the Greenbelt. It's nice to see that you have that option where maybe you can take that light option, which might be all some students need, but then you can go further. But then for the full certification, you need to complete those 2 weeks. And are there other things like projects or testing that
Yep.
are needed?
Yep. Most of the training, there is no exams that they offer. So they believe that project work is the way to qualify and certify. And I agree. I think that's nothing wrong with tests. I think there is some advantage to having a proficiency on the knowledge of the tools and being aware, being and studying for a test. That there is advantages there because you never know what you're going to come across as a consultant, and it's good to be exposed to things, but you also need to learn how to run a project and have success with that. And there's the technical side of it on a project, and then there's the people side of getting buy-in and working through challenges and pushback and resistance. And that's a very important skill for process improvement. So applying and implementing a project is the other part of the certification. So you complete 2 weeks of the training, and then you complete a project. And
Nice.
that's something I would like review and sign off on that says, yep, they used the tools correctly, they used the right tools at the right place, and they came to the right conclusions in their data.
Very good. And so just to clarify, if somebody is going to sign up for this program, should they follow the 1-day white belt, 2-day yellow belt, 2-day green belt light, and then green belt? Or is it booking the whole 2 weeks of green belt at once?
Yeah, so all those are options. So you can do white belt only. You could do white belt and yellow belt. Well, it's like if I say yellow belt, it includes everything prior. Green belt
okay,
light
okay.
includes everything prior.
Okay.
So you can sign up for all 2 weeks. Right after that, you said, I know I want to get green belt certified. You would take both weeks signed up. And if it's a live class, then it's usually first week is the light version up to the green belt light. Mm-hmm. So first day would be white belt, next 2 days yellow belt, next 2 days a lighter green belt.
Okay.
Then there's usually a 3 to 4 week break in between, and then you come back for the second week after you've started to work on your project a little bit. You know enough to get started. You know how to use the software. You know how you know basic statistics. You know about capability studies, SPC, gauge R&Rs. Then we come back and say, now once you get to the point where you're analyzing data or you're doing your before and after analysis, here are the hypothesis tests you can run. Or maybe you're ready for a DOE. So it takes about total 5 total weeks on the calendar, but it's 2 separate weeks of training.
And that's really the ideal, right? Is giving a chance for people to go out, test what they're learning, see what works, what doesn't, and then come back and be able to actually ask the instructor their questions or challenge some of the things that they have questions on. That to me is one of the best things to see in a program. I know you mentioned—
And that's included. That's included my time working and coaching people during the class and after the class. So between those couple weeks between the classes, I'm available for them to have calls or emails back and forth about something they're working on. And then I'll see them again in a couple weeks, and we'll continue to work through their project during the class as much as possible. Sometimes if the project's not ready to go yet, it's hard, but we really encourage people to come with some ideas. We'll try to solidify those by the end of the class. You've seen a lot of the tools now. You might have a better idea of which projects would work best for this first project, because we do want to try to be strategic about what projects you pick for the very first one. So you get to practice the tools. And after that, you can kind of use it however you want. But let's pick a good project at the end of the first week, work on that coming into the second week. So now we get into the details of the data analysis. You could bring your own data. We could pull it up and I can help you right there on the spot. And then after the course, if you need help, we offer a couple hours worth of time afterwards to help you through that. So if you ever get stuck, then you have people to reach out to. I think that's an important part of the program.
And then you mentioned the self-paced option as well. So with the self-paced option, how do you get the the feedback from the instructor? Is there still a connection there?
So the self-paced doesn't have that light version. It goes white belt, yellow belt, and then it's the full green belt, I believe, if I remember. Um, if you choose to go through get a project certified, there's an additional cost to that, maybe a couple $100 extra. But then you get the time with an instructor. And so since it's not live, but there is, it's kind of the way they treat it is the investment in the class is part of the instructor pay, and they're going in and giving instruction and they're supporting the students afterwards. But when it's self-paced, you don't have that direct interaction with the instructor, which has strengths and disadvantages of that. So if you do want to get certified, there is a step you have to add on to have your project reviewed and signed off on by someone like at a master black belt level. So I can look it over and just make sure if you have questions, I'm here to answer them. And then when you're ready to submit your project, then we'll work with you back and forth. So typically what happens is I'm either working with someone throughout their project, or sometimes they feel like they're ready to go. They have enough experience. They start working on it and they'll submit something as a final project I've never seen before. And then I'll have to go through and kind of see if I can follow along what they did. And if it makes a lot of sense, I'll say, this looks great. I approve. Other times it's like, you skipped some steps here. Something's missing. How did you get to this answer? That doesn't look like a normal distribution. Let's go back and kind of redo this so it's technically correct. Where's your cost savings? Can you get cost savings? Where's your control plan? And then there may be back and forth dialogue or a call like this or an email back and forth. And then eventually I'll say, now it looks great. Okay, you're approved. So
Nice.
sometimes it depends on their background, how much help they need. Some need more help than others. Others don't need much help.
It's good to hear though that the self-paced option has that caveat. So I think some of the things on the market today, we talk about Lean Six Sigma training or green belt training and green belt certification. And I think sometimes people that are new to all of this continuous improvement Lean Six Sigma stuff don't understand maybe that difference. And so it sounds like then with the self-paced option, you're able to do all of the training yourself. But then when you turn and you look and you say, hey, I want to get certified, that means that you actually have to have somebody review that. There has to be some kind of gate that you have to go through to achieve that certification. And
Yep.
so, basically you have the option there to kind of chop and change where you can do the self-paced, which works for a lot of people in businesses now that just have maybe an hour or two a week that they can log in and they can do the training. But then you can add on that second piece so that you can actually get the certification, but also get the chance to connect with an instructor and ask your questions and get that feedback, which to me is just the most valuable piece of a lot of these
Yeah.
programs.
I think, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, is this just a short conversation with someone, helping them through how does this apply to my work, what I do. We can fairly quickly help them connect the dots and say, that's not really that applicable, actually, now that you've explained what you do. You don't have the data to do a lot of these analyses. Or actually, if you look at it this way, that is your defect. And now you have calculations we can do. And if you can put it into this control chart. If you just have to call this your count or frequency or your total number, your denominator there, and that would be the correct chart. So
Yeah.
sometimes this could be just a very short conversation for that light bulb to go off and they see the connection of their work back to the training, which is easy in manufacturing, but once you get out of manufacturing, there can be struggles with that much more than others.
Is there, speaking of kind of manufacturing versus some of the other things, the other industries that we might be working with. So in manufacturing or in some organizations, there's a dollar requirement or a certain requirement that your project has to meet outside of just following a DMAIC project. Is there any kind of restriction with that? Okay, that's
No
good.
formal restriction. Obviously, there is we encourage you to pick a project that does have some kind of impact. Definitely something that needs to be measurable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm looking for on a Six Sigma project is I want to see some number get better. And it'd be better if it's something we can do a hypothesis test to compare it. But
Yeah.
if I can at least see that the metric is getting better, that's good. If you can't quantify the impact, how do we know that was successful project? So that's pretty important in a Six Sigma project. And we tried to figure out if there's a way to quantify or measure that and put a dollar to it, but not every problem is going to turn into a financial, but at least I want to capture what are some of the soft benefits that go along with this. Does this reduce stress for your workers? Does this take away a frustration of theirs? Is this set your organization up to handle more demand without just adding more people? Is it building capacity? Does it help your cash flow somehow that you don't have to carry as much inventory or your backlogs are less? And there's inventory in service processes and office processes. You're paying salaries to do work that you're not going to get paid by your customers for months or ever sometimes. That's a form of inventory that we can look at and say we have less projects in the pipeline, therefore we're not investing so much in this work that may never get charged back to a customer as a sellable product or service. So try to figure out a way to quantify that. And maybe there's an environmental impact, right? Less stuff going to the landfill, less electricity being used, less raw materials being wasted, less chemicals down the drain. Something like that would be cool to capture as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice to hear that we're not married or stuck with a dollar number, because that can be quite common when we're talking about that project certification. And talking about dollars, for anybody that wants to go ahead and jump into this program, what's kind of the price range that they would be looking at to get green belt certified or green belt trained?
Yeah, so I'll start with kind of the lowest cost option would be that self-paced learning with an add-on of having a project review or certification review. And so at a green belt level, we could be in the $300 to $600 range, probably be a good number, plus another $200 or $300 for the certification part. So about $1,000 will get you a really good program there. Even as low as so maybe you're looking at $600 to maybe $1,000. And I say that because there's a couple of different changes they're making right now, the programs. And that's the one that's going to change a little bit here. But by the time this comes out, I think we'll have it more clear there. But that's roughly what you're looking at for a self-paced program. And again, you're getting close to 30, 40 hours of training. And then if you add in a a couple $100 for cert review, then you get a couple hours of time with someone like myself who can help you through your project, and then you can achieve a certification. So that's probably the lowest cost option you can get. So the other options are going to be a live instructor option. So it's either going to be virtual, where there's no travel involved. You do that at your on your computer. And those are going to be a little bit shorter too, because when you're in person, there's a lot of other logistics that take place. The breaks are a little bit more formalized. The setup is a little bit more, you're maybe at a hotel or you're at a conference room. I know I always try to get there almost an hour ahead of time, and then tearing down whatever projectors and things like that. So there's a lot more setup involved, and with people in the room together, there can be more distractions, and you're trying to work through a lot more difficulties. So there's a little bit higher cost to that. So the next more affordable option would be a virtual session. And that would be a little bit less time, but you're on Zoom for usually about 6 hours a day. And that can be a little lengthy, whereas a regular class might be 8 hours in person. So you're saving a little bit of time there. And so the reason I mentioned that is because the price is a little bit less. So like a 1 week of that would be about $2,000, and both weeks would be about $4,000. Sorry, that's the that would be for the in-person. So 2,000 would be for that 1 week with the white belt, yellow belt, and the green belt light. And then the second week would be another $2,000. And then for the virtual session, it'd be a little bit less. So it'd be about 1,500 for that 1 week, and then about 3,000 for the second week. So you could save about $1,000 if you go to the virtual option. And it would also cut down some travel costs depending on where that training was located and how close it was to where you live. But the other advantage in the in-person, any live instructor class, there's no additional cost for the cert review. It's kind of included as the instructor fee.
Mm.
So there's nothing extra to add on top of that.
Mm-hmm. That includes certification.
So that automatically includes certification. The 2 weeks. If you just did like the 1 week, I don't think that includes the certification.
Yeah.
But if you do 2 full weeks, yep. So so to kind of summarize, it'd be about $1,000 for the self-paced with a certification for the same, and this would be the same content. And then it'd be about $3,000 for a virtual training over, it's going to be about 6 or 7 days at about 6 hours a day. So, and then there's going to be the in-person would be about 8 or 9 days spread out over those couple weeks. And then you have also additional travel costs you might have to incur, and that would be about $4,000.
And about how long? I think that's good coverage for us to get an idea of those costs. One question that comes to mind is how long has that content or that green belt been delivered? Is it a program that's been around for a long time?
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember the exact date. I think it's either 2005 or 2008.
Oh, wow.
Is when
okay.
Six Sigma US got set up. Somewhere in that ballpark. But yeah, so that program's been delivered for, 16 years now.
Yeah.
And I'd say it's pretty standard to what I've seen in other courses. As you know, we've taught classes with other people before, and we've each received training from other organizations, and it matches very well with that. The founder, Peter, worked at 3M for many years, and so they've had a Six Sigma program for many years. And so he's basing a lot of this on what's been around for a long time. But we always can tweak some of the material and try to improve it. So it's gone through iterations throughout the years. And just like anything, we have to have continuous improvement. So
getting better and better. And so
that's right.
This question, we'll see if it lands or not. But if lean, on a scale from 1 to 10, if lean was a 1 and Six Sigma was a 10, where do you think this program falls in terms of, is it a little more lean or is it a little more Six Sigma?
I'd say blend. It's probably a 7.
Yeah.
More Six Sigma. We do cover 8 forms of waste, and we do talk about how lean and Six Sigma blend, but they have a whole separate course just on lean principles and methods.
Nice. So that option,
they have like a 4-day program for people who want to learn more on lean. And so we go deep into 5S and value stream mapping and whole systems and flow and A3, everything like that. So they have them as separate courses, but in each course they talk about that these are blended approaches you should be incorporating in, because you're only getting half of the tools you probably need to really be effective at solving any kind of problem in your organization. So I recommend people, if they're new, to maybe look at lean first. Sometimes the tools are a little less complicated. You don't have to deal with software right away, especially if you struggle with math or don't like data as much. Definitely that's the route to go. And there's a lot of problems you can solve with lean tools. But if you do anything with, you're dealing with data, or you've got critical projects that need to be done well, you want to ensure success, I really think you have to bring those Six Sigma tools in to make sure you're gathering the data correctly, your data is good, and you're doing proper statistical analysis on that data. And we can say that this is a true improvement. It's not just random noise in the data, but we have something legitimate here.
Awesome. And just one more question as we start to wrap up here. We've learned a lot about this program with Six Sigma.us, and I really appreciate Brion's time in coming today and sharing that with all of us. But one more question. So what do you see with this program? As you mentioned, we've both seen a lot of different programs. What do you think sets this one apart from other programs people might be considering?
I'd say, first of all, it's been around a while, so they've got some really good instructors. Not saying I'm one of them, but they have people with a lot of experience. And so most of them have at least 20 years of experience doing process improvement. So we can bring a lot of examples and experience to the training classes. And then the certification is kind of tied into the program. You know, as part of the program, you get time with that instructor. It's not other than like the self-paced one, that's a separate add-on. But in the live classes, that's part of your time, and definitely encourage that. It's a much better class when we could talk about real problems and real data and look at real examples. So we definitely encourage that as much as possible. So I think those two things stand out in my mind is why I can feel, proud to promote this program to other people and feel like it's a good value for everybody. Mm-hmm. And if they do one project, you will pay for your training. So those costs may seem high, but for your employer, you say, I just have to save more than what my training costs, and it's going to be a benefit. And most people save way more than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's a good investment. You're right on that one project, but how many other projects would that lead to as well to save additional amount? So it's an essential training skill that everyone should have at some level of knowledge. You don't have to be a master black belt, but unless you're going to do this full time, then that probably is a skill you'll want. But I think everybody should have lean skills and at least like that green belt light level training. I think I always encourage people to get that if you're doing any kind of improvement work, even if it's not your full-time job. You're managing a team, you're supporting others. These are just really good tools and skills to have.
Fantastic. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover before we wrap up today?
No, I would agree that I think you're doing a great job with this program because unfortunately it's still a little messy. There is no official standards around certification. And so there is a lot to sort through and review and decide upon. And there's no one stamp that says this one is good and this one's not good.
Yeah.
I think just talk to other people who've gone through training programs, see how they liked it, and see what they cover in the material. And Greenbelt kind of has a structure to it, but you'll see a lot of variety in programs, and some won't even deal with software, and others will go pretty deep, like in our program, where you're going to learn Minitab or Sigma Excel really well, or whatever software package. I've done some for Jump as well. Wow. Whatever program you have, you're going to be proficient at that software tool when you get done. And that's not the case for all Greenbelt programs.
That's definitely true. And I think nowadays it is difficult for people coming in and looking at it online to maybe understand, is this the right program for me in my industry doing what I'm doing? How do I connect with it? So that's something that's hard for us to maybe understand without going a little bit deeper. And there's not a simple explanation to say, this is the one that you should attend. And so I appreciate you coming here today, Brion, and sharing.
One more thing.
Oh yeah, please.
As we were talking about software, I forgot, with Greenbelt, there is a software, and typically we go with Minitab. It's probably the most popular one, and most people use that for their analyses. With the self-paced, you could also do Sigma Excel training as the add-on. Both packages have 30-day free trials, so there's no additional cost for the software. But after the training's over, then there could have to be a decision that maybe I have to get the software if my company doesn't have that already. So that's something you could think about or consider in the training is, do I want to learn a program, and is that some additional cost I might have to have later on? What I would tell people, though, is if you're doing a project and you're stuck and you don't have access to the software, your instructor or someone like myself will help you figure it out. We'll I'll run the analysis and I'll send it back to you and you can interpret it. So we'll work around some issue, but the Six Sigma US program gives you 6 months of access to Minitab beyond the 30 days.
Oh, wow.
But that is another benefit that I forgot to mention.
Yeah.
So that allows people to actually finish their project all the way through and have access to the software.
Nice. That's actually a very big plus there, especially for people just getting used to the software, because it's not just about learning it in class, but it's about using it when you leave class and seeing the different
Yes.
capabilities and how it applies to your work. And I think, 30 days is great, but 6 months gives you a chance to really get that skill embedded. So that's an awesome benefit. And Minitab tends to be one of the most common, that, and I would say Sigma Excel. So if you learn those, then you're going to have that standard for whatever organization you go to. They'll understand what you're talking about when you mention those software programs.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, we'll make sure that these links to the programs as well as to you and some of the stuff you're doing, Brion, are all in the description today. And so we can catch up with you and see all the cool stuff you're doing on top of all the classes that are going on with Six Sigma.us. Thank you so much for joining us today and giving us all this insight into these programs.
Anytime. Thanks.